It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight reviews of Fiddler on the Roof, Pretty Woman, the musical, Days to Come, and Getting the Band Back Together. Plus, what's coming up on Broadway. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. Hello again. How are you tonight, Leslie?
I'm really good, Charlie. Thank you. I'm in the middle of moving again.
Leslie, we must find you.
That's my new hobby, I know.
Why don't you take up going to the theater or something
I
like
could do that.
Here's a good show to start with. Fiddler on the Roof. Now, you might ask, didn't Fiddler just have a really excellent production on Broadway? And the answer is yes. So why would the Volkswiener be doing it? Well, for one thing, they are doing it a little differently, but strangely adhering to tradition. They are doing it in Yiddish, which is the language that Shalom Aleichem, whose stories form the basis of this musical, wrote them in. This is a translation that I think was originally done in Israel 50 years ago, and I believe this is the first time it's ever been done, certainly in New York.
I'd never heard of it being done in New York.
And it's done off-Broadway with, of all people, Joel Grey, yes, that Joel Grey, directing, and Stas Kimmich choreographing. Now,
Joel Grey was asked to be Tevye.
Really?
Yes, and I saw him in an interview, and he said, or you could direct. And he went, I think I'll go that way.
Yeah,
and
that was definitely, he puts a subtle but very firm mark on the show. So, we don't have the turntable, but we do have the bottle dance.
Yes, we do have the bottle dance.
And just such an enjoyable production of it, so energetic.
You have a really lovely Tevye in Steve Skybell.
Oh yeah,
just a lovely Tevye.
Joyous but grounded. Yes, a little thinner than we normally see Tevye, but
more emotional, I think. I mean, I thought the last one was really emotional with Danny Burstein. I really thought that was wonderful, or Burstein. I never remember, but I think that Skybell does every bit as much, and he does it in Yiddish, so you know.
Yeah, well, which I found interesting because I found myself looking at the translation and how they changed the dialogue and the lyrics to accommodate the nuances.
Yes, of course,
translation.
Yes.
And one interesting thing that I found.
You were reading along in Russian, of course.
Not
in English. Yes, of course. It's also translated.
It's also very appropriately on crumpled brown paper, which fits the set beautifully. Again,
well,
they really have thought of everything.
No, that's the Torah. The crumpled brown paper, the screen is over on the side. The Torah was remember when the Russians come in and they rip the Torah in half and then they sew it back up? Those are the lovely pieces. It opens with him saying the Torah and he rolls it out and then they hang it up.
No. This is where I'm talking about what they projected the words.
Oh, was that on crumpled? I didn't even know.
Well, that's what it
was
looked like to
crumpled
me.
Paper. Okay, sorry.
And let's see, you have Jennifer Babick as Golda. I loved her Golda. This is a kinder, gentler Golda. This is Goldie as by way of June Cleaver. Really,
I think that's pushing it a bit. She still has.
She
still
has
as
a
good
bite.
As she gets. She has a bite. Yes. Okay.
But much less so than some other.
You mean she's more subservient?
No.
God forbid.
No, more subtle.
If you say.
Yes. June Cleaver was not subservient.
The one who's not subtle, but who's for her is subtle, is Jackie Hoffman
a little
as
too
Yenta.
Subtle.
I liked it. I thought reining her in put her in the ensemble rather than it being.
I would have rather watched her stand out.
No,
yes, Yenta is a character.
Yes, but it's not the Jackie Hoffman show. And any show Jackie Hoffman is in, not because of her, because people let her do it. It becomes the Jackie Hoffman show. This is Tevye. This is this is the way.
Yenta can still.
I thought she did a lovely job.
No, I wanted more.
Again,
listen, this is the woman who was literally chewing scenery in Xanadu.
Yes, but
I wanted a little more of
again,
that
as both
here.
an actor and a director, let me tell you that getting her to do what she did was a lot harder than letting her just go and do. And she had to learn Yiddish for this. She did not know Yiddish.
They all had to learn Yiddish. Not very few, if any, of those cast members actually speak Yiddish.
There are one or two people like Cameron, whatever his name is, who played the Russian guy, who always are in these and were not even Jewish. Forget about Yiddish. They're not Jewish.
Rachel Zatkoff as Seidel, Stephanie Lynn Mason as Huddle, Rose Joy Nettie as Kava, who's also the dance captain. What I loved about them, aside from the wonderful performances of their characters, was how they interacted together. They acted like sisters. They giggled together. I'm pretty sure I saw them rolling their eyes together.
Who played? Because I'm holding this up. Who played Muddle?
Who played Muddle? That's a very good
Oh, he wasn't.
question.
You didn't bother to list him?
Oy.
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 Muddle. Where are you, dear?
Muddle.
Fiedka
Muddle
is Cameron Johnson.
Ben Liebert.
Ben Liebert, who was excellent.
Muddle, yes, excellent.
He was not a schlemiel. He was a young man trying very hard to win his lady fair.
Yep. And he
did it.
Cameron Johnson is Fiedka.
Yeah. And we've seen Cameron Johnson before. He's the guy I'm talking about.
And Daniel Kahn is Perchik.
Yes.
I think that covers everybody.
I think that does.
But all in all, I don't know whether it's the Yiddish or the intimacy or just such a beautiful cast that stands out, but also can work as an ensemble. Even if you saw the
now it's still running as we
still running?
tape. I'm not sure whether it'll be still running when we
I
air.
believe they're looking about extending it.
That'd be what they've extended it 3 times already.
I think it will be also the afternoon we were there. They had cameras there, so I'm hoping this has been taped,
they
maybe
also
for Broadway.com or...
They're talking about moving it.
Yes.
Now, whether there's enough of an audience for it. I mean, if Japanese visitors come to look for a show, that may or may not be. Who knows? That could be a show that they would see.
You know what?
I don't know.
I was surprised because I've seen every major production of Fiddler since the original on Broadway, every major New York production, and this stands with the best of them, I think. And I'm giving this 5 playbills.
Okay, I why not? Sure. I don't have. I thought it was wonderful when the Torah gets ripped, you get to see Zalman Matek, with whom we've had on the show, behind there leading the orchestra.
One quick thing, we earlier this year we saw Tevye Served Raw, and there was a story, and then about. In Helm, where a man buys a she-goat, and people keep switching it for a he-goat, and he can't understand what's going on. So in the opening number tradition, they borrow this story. Instead of he sold a horse and delivered a mule, he sold a girl goat and delivered a boy goat. Just an interesting reference. Obviously, whoever was writing this knew his Shalom Aleichem.
Knew his Shalom Aleichem. I know my pretty woman. Unfortunately for the show. Now, this show, that doesn't matter what I say about it, because as of now, this show is selling out, and it has the best box office per week of any show other than Hamilton.
Is the song Pretty Woman in the show?
No, it is not. Okay. And you knew it was not. You just asked me that as a lead question. Thank you, Charlie. We only have one playbill to share amongst us, unfortunately, because I can't find mine. But it is based on the original Gary Marshall script. It has been tweaked, shall we say, by someone named J.E. Lawton.
And Marshall himself.
And Marshall himself, who is no longer with us, yes. And the music is by Bryan Adams, and yes, that Bryan Adams. And it stars Samantha Banks, whom we saw in Les Mis, the movie, and Andy Carl, whom we've seen in half of the great male roles in musicals of the last 10 years.
Most recently Groundhog Day.
Yes, and before that Rocky, and he's a very good choice because he has the same kind of chiseled look that the young Richard Gere did have. And then...
But can she step into Samantha?
Let me put it this way. The takeaway stars from this show for me are Eric Anderson in several roles as the head of the hotel.
Yes.
And then as an undercover cop wearing a garbage bag for a coat. And then in something else.
Is that what he was supposed to be?
Yes, and then the orchestra conductor. That's why she decides to go back.
Right.
And Orfeh is in this as she's the girl sidekick. Why are you taking it from me?
Because I have one I want to add, but keep going.
Well, okay, I haven't gotten there yet. And Danny Brocco, who is about this tall, as the little bellhop, who is he's delightful. They have the shortest.
Boy, can he bust a move.
Yes, and they have the shortest dancers in this thing that I've ever seen. Most of the male dancers are not tall. And now is there somebody that's left out? Jason Danielli's
Well, Samantha Barks, who I really...
I started with that.
I'm sorry.
That's
who
okay.
I think really steps into the role beautifully. She is every bit as appealing on stage as Julia Roberts was in the movie.
Nope.
And frankly shines a lot brighter than Julia Roberts did when she tried to be on Broadway. Oh, yes.
Nope.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with you that she shines better than Julia because Julia chose the wrong play.
Absolutely.
It was not a play for her.
Come back, Julia. Get yourself a better play that
Get a better
lets you
play
shine.
for yourself. But no, I totally disagree. This was, in her case, and it's unfortunate, it was shot for shot, costume for costume, and although she filled the costumes beautifully, let's face it, this is a show about a hooker, and I'm using the kind word that we all use in the show. And there are blackouts when she's about to perform sex acts. I sat there. I wanted to take a shower. It was so uncomfortable. The movie was iconic. It was 1990. It came from a different time period. The Me Too movement hadn't come along. We accepted prostitutes with hearts of gold, I think, a little bit better. We're watching The Deuce right now, which is full of, porn, but it's set in 1970. This is supposed to be. She was wonderful in Les Mis. I think there's a play waiting for it to happen, Samantha Barks, but she played Eponine. But and when she goes shot for shot, she ain't no Julia Roberts.
I thought I have to 100% disagree.
Obviously.
I thought she was. Now, if you don't
I
like
have to keep
the
this
story,
up like
well,
that while
no,
you're talking?
because I'm going to need it momentarily. Because if you don't like the story,
I love the music. I love the movie.
well, it's no different.
But I love the movie
She was
for
a
the movie.
prostitute then too.
No, I understand that. But there's no reason to take that particular show and put it into this time period and glorify the situation of a powerful man with money having his way with a young woman.
Yeah,
Sorry.
who he proposes to at the end.
Well, that's just, that'll happen.
Yeah, well,
I mean, how many of these women got proposed to who are coming forward? No, I'm sorry. I cannot separate reality from the theater for this one. Sorry.
I had no trouble doing that. Absolutely.
Well, you're a man. We can always put it that way.
Oh, well, now who's being sexist?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
This is a
excuse me.
sexist issue. There's no question.
I see. Oh,
And so the bottom line is, Andy Carl is lovely and I adore him, but I didn't like him in this.
Well, you know what? I did like him.
Benjamin Walker, who did Psycho, could have played this role. He's not quite old enough, but he could have played this role, and he would have had that Bateman sleaziness
the
to him.
interesting thing is the feeling that you had about glorifying. That's what I had when I saw the movie.
Okay.
And if you're not going to and I've already had 20 years or however old that movie
get
is
used to it,
get used to it. I'm not dragging Me Too into this. It's the same story. This is practically in the United States a Cinderella story.
Well, it's Pygmalion.
More like Pygmalion and My Fair Lady. But there's, in fact, and you say shot for shot. Well, My Fair Lady is often shot for shot Pygmalion. But there's one major difference. My Fair Lady has the most amazing score in the world.
Yes, without question.
This one, and I am surprised that this has not come up, is a terrible score. The music is decent.
I would have gotten to that if you'd let me, but that's okay.
Well, go right ahead.
That's all right.
But the words, I have heard more appropriate lyrics, in other words, lyrics that drove a show forward better in jukebox musicals.
It's
generic.
Generic.
It's amateurish. And again, now that, if you have a reason to protest Pretty Woman being a musical, that's the one to go with.
No, because I don't mind it being made into a musical.
And wouldn't you know it, we got John Shivers doing the sound design, and I heard every word.
Oh, I see. Well, then, good sound design for that. And by the way,
sound
Jerry
design.
Mitchell, another director choreographer. We're going to see that this season all over the place.
But
yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, well, what I was going to say is, so the show moves.
Yes.
It looks good. It has gorgeous costumes.
Good actors.
And that last scene is appropriately touching in its own silly little way. It becomes silly there, but it's not silly up until then. It's serious. And Orfeh, who is doing an extraordinary Cyndi Lauper imitation.
Oh, okay.
That's her thing. I expected her to break into Girls Just Want to Have Fun at some point because she puts on the accent, and it's either that or
would have lifted the score up a bit.
Yeah, but it's either that or Jersey Girls, whichever one it is. But anyway,
It takes place in San Francisco.
That I would come out and speak about Eric Anderson, who is a lovely person, but that I would think of him as the star of the show. In fact, he comes out. He does at the end of the intermission. He comes in as the orchestra director, and when he comes up, the audience applauded him. Now, when have you seen a secondary character or tertiary character even get that kind of? If he doesn't get an award nomination,
very strong case.
Thank you.
For that.
That's only because there's no there for so much of the rest of it. For me.
Again, I will just again.
Sets by David Rockwell.
Yes. Yes. Look, everything for me, worked about this show.
Okay.
Except the score, and if you're doing a musical, that's a pretty big...
I understand your point. I'm not disputing that, but what would you give it?
3.5 on a show that really should have been much higher. Because, again, they could call it Pretty Woman the play, And in many ways, I would still enjoy it. And I love the scene. I love the dancing. I love the direction.
I wonder if I would be able to take it as a play. Because the minute you put it into a musical, you expect lighthearted in some way.
Well, it's a lighthearted story to begin with.
Yes, it's about a hooker. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
You haven't asked me what I would give it. I would give it.
What would you give it?
Well, I have to swim through the slime to get to maybe, because of the talent involved, maybe 2.75.
Okay, so you really did not enjoy this.
I squirmed more in that play than I have in 100 other
Really?
plays. Yes, really and truly. Sorry.
And yet you would go and see and enjoy the movie.
Well, I don't know if I'd enjoy it now. I haven't tried to. I thought about watching it again, and I thought I had enough of that for, one weekend, so I don't know. We didn't see it the same night, so, maybe it got sleep. Oh, and I don't understand why Andy Carl developed a Southern accent while he sang, except that they gave the music a slightly country Western
I didn't notice that.
flavor. Well,
maybe
yeah.
you saw it after I did.
Yes.
Maybe they were trying to improve the score.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Here's
Let's
a suggestion.
make these.
Get a new one.
Let's make this sine qua non New Yorker into a country Western singer. That makes sense. Yes, that'll make the score better. Okay. Go ahead.
Moving on.
I hope I used sine qua non right. I probably didn't.
All right. Days to Come by Lillian Hellman, who was represented last year by a stunning revival of The Little Foxes.
Stunning.
Totally stunning. And does this match it? Does not even come close.
This was her second play. And her first play was The Children's Hour. Okay. So she hit the ground running. And then she came up with this one, and she was trying to do social commentary.
Right. And to an extent, this is basically a capital and labor play. It takes place in a small town where this family has owned the factory for many years, and they are the elite of the town, but there has always been a great friendship and camaraderie between them and their employees.
The workers,
their employees.
they had
basically
a good,
they are friends, and they take care of their people. Except the factory is failing. And there is the first time they're having a labor strife, and you have
a labor organizer comes to try to make a union. It's
Right.
the 30s, but Waiting for Lefty, this is not. Which was also a labor.
That's
play.
I was going to mention
Oh,
that.
sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. Basically, the head of the family, that's Larry Bull, Andrew Rodman, played very nicely by Larry Bull, doesn't know what to do. He's really out of his depth, and he ends up, on the advice of his lawyer, bringing in these union busters who he naively thinks are going to be replacement workers.
And they come in like comic characters in a 1930s comedy or
Straight
something
out
like
of
the
Damien Runyon.
or the front page, either one of them. Yeah, they talk fast and they talk funny, but that's not. They're killers.
Yes.
And they're not comic characters, and they're treated as comic characters, which is a directorial choice, which is wrong. And so that undercuts the fact that there's and the young woman playing Larry Bull's wife.
Right, that's Jane Brookshire.
It's an unhappy marriage, and she plays around outside of her marriage. And so I guess they took a much older man and a much younger, more attractive woman. But he could have been younger and more attractive. Not that there's anything wrong with the way Larry Bull looks. It's just that I never took them for a couple. Even if she married them
maybe
for
that's
money.
why they're having problems.
But of course. But I mean, it doesn't have to be that obvious, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It could be.
Well, I think the main problem with this play is that it's really should be more of a character drama, more of the family and of the characters, and the playwright kind of glosses over that until the end. There's this one character she plays his sister, very nicely played by Mary Bacon, but you don't realize who this true character is, what she's about, what she could accomplish until the end of the play.
Mary Bacon's a wonderful actress.
You think, she's this ditzy idiot, spoiled, and then at the end we realize, she had something to say and she knew a lot more about what was going on. And at first I thought, well, maybe this is the town where Sweat will take place in 70 years.
Yeah, you said
it's
that.
Not.
I always thought that was interesting.
And there is, just waiting for her to get to the family, to get to the family's problems, to get to the root of what's going on here. It's like we are waiting for Lefty, and as in waiting for Godot, Lefty never shows up. And that's kind of the problem with the play. It doesn't quite. It has a plot. But it's on the wrong. It feels like it's on the wrong one until the end, and then it's too late.
Well, she followed it up with Little Foxes, so this
she
thing ran for
she
7
improved
days.
with times.
It ran for 7 days in its
Yeah.
initial run, which in those days there was no such thing as they didn't do previews on Broadway. You did previews out of town and you opened it.
Right.
So 7 days was its total, and I do understand. I mean, I never knew this play existed. I'm happy to know about it.
Yes.
I think I would have preferred reading it to. But a lovely production, as always. I mean, beautiful
lovely
costumes
production. This
and
is at the
scenery
Mint Theater
and,
Company.
Yeah.
It was well done. The scenery was J.R. Sullivan directed. The scenery was wonderful. I mean, it was Harry Feiner did the sets. It's mostly takes place in the house, but they go to the Union office, and how they do it, it's
very
just
well, yeah.
very clever,
without a road,
very,
without a, yeah,
very,
right.
very creative,
So what would you give
very
it?
nicely done. I'd say 2.5 is probably
I'd agree
about
with you.
right.
I'd agree with you there. A lot of work went into it, I know. So you get to talk about something I did not see.
And Leslie is thinking.
Yeah. Well, it closed yesterday, this play,
Yes, it did.
sadly, according to you.
Well, no. Well, it depends.
All right.
Because, you see, folks, while we have had plenty of opportunity for dumb, mindless musicals where you could just put your brain in neutral, they seem to be rejected by the Broadway community. We had SpongeBob, which took the stupidity of the TV show and transplanted it on
Yeah, that was
stage.
fun. That was really clever, though.
In
It was
its
stupid
own,
clever.
in
or
its
clever
own way,
stupid,
yes. And then there was Margaritaville. That was a color-by-number plot stupidity.
Which was stupid.
Yes.
As opposed to.
And now comes getting the band together, which kind of makes Margaritaville look intelligent. But this is a show that relished and emphasized its stupidity.
Right.
Yes. Well, this was Mitch, a 40-year-old Wall Street tycoon who loses his job. Somehow he's broke after, I don't know, he's been on Wall Street for 20 years. What do you do with the money? Goes back to his town, his hometown of New Jersey, moves in with his mother, who for some reason has a $100,000 mortgage on a house that she's had for 40 years and would have paid more than $45,000 for. The town is, as I said, hasn't he been back in 20 years to visit his mother? What kind of a son is he?
Did Ken Davenport write the show as well as produce it?
Ken Davenport, yes, along with a group of writers called the Grundleshots and someone called Sarah Stolzberg, who did additional material, whatever that means.
I think, knowing Ken Davenport, who just won a Tony for the revival of Once on This Island, I think that this is a story that must have touched him in some way, that he may have had a band in high school. I don't know what. I think it meant a great deal to him to get this play on. Big enough to put it on Broadway, when maybe it might have worked off Broadway. I don't know. I didn't see it. But I know that it meant a lot to him. And I think when you follow your bliss, I just think that getting the Tony for that and doing this right one on top of the other shows you what a crazy world showbiz.
Well,
the show business is.
yes. The standout had to be Mary Lou Henner. Taxi fans, I'm sure, appreciated the fact that she entered the stage driving a car. But here she is. She's got a 40-year-old son, and she's still making him and his friends Rice Krispie treats. In fact, if you were fortunate enough to sit in the right place in the theater, she would give you a Rice Krispie treat.
Isn't that what happens in New Jersey? I thought that's what I thought everybody in New Jersey did that. No? I'm being facetious.
Not with 40-year-old kids.
I'm being facetious.
No. Oh, there's the plot. He's got to get his band back together to save his mother's house.
Of course. There's no other way.
But Mary Lou Henner, she had more energy and more presence, and than the other women on stage who were 20 years younger. And you could put her on the street next to Vivian in Pretty Woman, and she would give Vivian a run for her money.
So what would you give it?
Oh.
You have to give it something.
I do?
Yes, because we're going on to what's coming up in the new season.
I could say, for
it's
what it is.
beating a dead horse to do anything more on it. So
I give it 2.5, maybe even 3. Look,
wow.
It had its moments, and it had a score by Mark Allen, and you know what? It was better than the score for Pretty Woman.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see that.
That's really not saying much.
I hear that. I'm going to move on
anything.
to. We have a series of really short things to tell you about.
Someday there will be a stupid show on Broadway that will run.
Well, I hope it's not one of these because, well, I think it could be one of yours. I don't think it's one of mine. We have 8 shows we want to talk about that are coming up. some on Broadway, some off Broadway.
We have 3 minutes.
Well, all right, so I'll do this really quickly. I'm going to read because I don't know this. Cherry Jones, Daniel Radcliffe, and Bobby Cannavale, if that isn't a cast to die for, in something called The Lifespan of a Fact, and it's about the credibility of a news item. And it opens on October 18th, and that's all I need to say about it, okay? Moving on, Network. Do I need to tell you what Network is about? But Network starring Bryan Cranston, who has already won an award in London for this production. So cannot wait to see him as Howard Beale, yelling to people, I'm what? Come on, I'm mad.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore!
I gave you that opportunity, and you didn't pick up on your cue. And then the other Broadway show that I'm really interested in is American Son, and it's a mixture of TV and Broadway heavyweights, as it says here, and that means Kerry Washington and Stephen Pasquale, and it's about an interracial couple whose son goes missing, and what happens, and it includes Jeremy Jordan in the cast, and it's his first non-musical role, and that opens in November. And then opening right away and running through November 4th at the IRT, the Irish Repertory Theatre, is On Beckett, starring Bill Irwin, and only Bill Irwin, running through 3 Beckett plays.
I have less than a minute to do this. So musical, I'm looking for King Kong. This is going to make the helicopter in Les Mis in Miss Saigon look. This is a 2,000-pound, 20-foot animatronic marionette ape. And it's a musical. And this is coming, I think previews start in October. The Cher Show. There will be a jukebox musical for Cher. There will be 3 actresses playing Cher. I saw Donna Summer last year. Not a good sign. Torch Song Trilogy, the first revival since Harvey brought it to Broadway himself in 1982. Michael Urie, who we both adore and who hosts the Drama Desk Awards. It was a hit off Broadway. Mercedes Ruehl is also in it. I'm very curious to see how the show has aged. I'm really looking forward to this. And finally, To Kill a Mockingbird by Aaron Sorkin.
Adapted
Harper Lee.
Yes.
Adapted by Aaron Sorkin. Did he do it right? We'll find out.
I wonder if people are going to walk around doing it, you know. It's his trademark.
Bartlett Sher, who did My Fair Lady, will direct. That is our show for this evening. When you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us too.
On the aisle.